So this is going to be a quick build video where we go from this all the way to this, which over the next few videos will turn into the fully functioning AI rig. So without much further ado, let's get into it. So this is the first video in hopefully many more to come, where we're effectively going to try and build a budget AI rig. So in front of you, you can see all the components that we're going to need. Primarily the GPU is the focus here for this one. It's a 7900 XTX. Now, the overarching plan of the project is really to run any hardware. We've got a bare minimum we need to have just to get it to work. Motherboard, RAM, stuff like that. But ultimately, the GPU really is going to be the bottleneck for what type of models that we're going to run and the tokens per second. So for this build, it's just going to be a quick, here's the parts, here's how you put it together, here's how you get Linux installed, and off you go. We'll have a build list that goes with it, a few other things, little guide to help you along with it. But we're not going to go super deep into the components. Really just, here's a motherboard, here's the CPU, here's some things to bear in mind. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first part we're going to look at, probably the most important part in the sense it'll cause you the most pain if you don't factor it in, is going to be the motherboard and then the CPU that works with that. So the motherboard you pick, it's going to be determining the type of CPU you have, the CPU cooler, what type of GPU you could even support, if you could have multiple GPUs, a lot of different things. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in this. I also don't want to go super deep into it. But really, this is where I would start. Now, this one is really your budget Chinese machinist, mini ATX, nothing fancy. We got this for around £42, £43, came with the CPU. Point being is this is the bare minimum you need to get started. It supports ECC RAM, this stuff here. Has a PCIe 16 slot for the GPU, has the 1x slot, and that's going to be where we use a Wi-Fi card, not obliged to use this, and then we have 4 slots for the RAM. Again, there's some nuance with this board, I'm not going to go into it, but if you look up dual channel memory versus quad, you'll see what I'm talking about. Again, I don't know about it, I just know it is a thing to bear in mind. Importantly as well, we have one singular M2 drive here. The listing for this said there was 2. There's not. Definitely just one. But we're only going to be using one. We'll use 512 gigabyte for our memory anyway. It's not going to be a problem. So as you can see, there's really not that much. It's not that different. I mean, it is just a PC. Standard gaming PC. In fact, a bare bones gaming PC just with a massive GPU attached to it. So really, there's not much to it. Follow the build guide. Follow the BOM guide and get all the parts. There's a few substitutions you can make, and that's what I'll focus on now here. So the motherboard, if you go on eBay, Amazon, look for anything like this. You know, and if you find something similar priced, CPU bundle, go with that. This is a Xeon 2650, I believe, 12 cores, good enough for 1 and 2, definitely not the best you can get. We're not going to focus on that for this build. So start from the motherboard, do the CPU, then get compatible RAM, and for the love of God, make sure you get the right CPU cooler. This one in particular is a 2011. There is some, I think you can use this ring to put on some different mounts. We've just gone for one that is a 2011. Went for a low profile one. Not because of any love for them, really just because this arrived in a day. All the rest took 3. Honestly, I'd recommend you just get one of the stock cheap ones, sort of 10, 15 quid. That was 25, kind of hurts. It's not even the best cooler you can get. So don't lose any sleep over it. Get the easiest cooler to install. This one's a wee bit of a pain in the arse, but nothing too tricky. Power supply, another critical part. This is going to depend more really on your graphics card. So in our case, we're running a 7900 XTX, and not too sure how well you can see this. We have a 3090 build here, and then I've got a 27 tucked away for testing as well. Basically, any 850 watt will do them all. If you've got a smaller graphics card and you run it fine for gaming, you can use the same PSU. If you're going to run a much bigger system, 1 or 2 cards, maybe consider getting a 1500 watt, something like that. The PSU is going to be critical, especially if you're running this at all times, so get a gold or a platinum if you can. Don't skimp out. The rest of these parts, so the motherboard is new, it's refurbished components. It's very common with the Chinese builds. RAM, again, refurbished. Cooler, brand new. SSD, refurbished. GPUs used. Power supply, always brand new, non-negotiable. And other than that, we're not going to spend too much time on the GPU because hopefully you're not sort of going overkill. If you're going overkill with this build, I'm probably not the guy you want to watch. Better people, much more instructive guides. For this, really, you just need to know what GPU you have. What's the best one you can get within your budget? Aim for that and skimp everywhere else. You can get into, optimizing the RAM with the VRAM compatibility for context windows. We're not doing that in this build. We'll get there eventually. But for this one, really, GPU, as much VRAM as you can, that's the goal. Should add, I'll be releasing a script for the next video to install everything that we need, to get you up and running. You actually don't even need a GPU for that. You can run it on the CPU, but 2 tokens a second versus 20. It's your choice. But ideally, again, 2070 Super, you can get them £100 to £200 depending on the day. So you don't need to get a £1,000, £2,000, even £3,000 GPU. That'll just get you slightly bigger models, slightly faster speeds, but as we're hopefully going to show from this project, you can get everything you need from this. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the build time lapse and then basically getting Linux on. So I've taken the liberty of installing the power supply, getting all the cables ready, just because, well, it's a pain in the arse. But it's just a couple of screws in the back to mount it, and then cables just correspond. We'll go more into that later. But yeah, just plug them in as you need. So we start with the motherboard. First and foremost, I'm just going to get that mounted. And so you'll see here we've got some spacers, just 4 wee spacers. Depending on the size of your motherboard, depends on where these will be, but effectively we just want to keep the motherboard raised. And so rather than screwing in everything tight at once, you're sort of best getting everything lined up, tightened a wee bit just to keep it in place, then finish it up. And then a little trick, if you don't know how well you can see this, you sort of hold the screw, yeah, I'm not very good at this, like this, you can sort of get it into the slot just to give yourself a wee bit less of a headache. And so another wee technique you'll see is if you can't quite, can't quite do this because that's too much, what I tend to find is you can sort of scoot in, not drop it, sort of line up with the other finger, scoot in and then let the momentum sort of take over. But you'll work out your own technique when you put together enough of these. And so once you're set, you want to just tighten everything up. Okay, so now we've got the motherboard in place. A few steps. I tend to like getting the RAM in, then the CPU cooler. Need to do the thermal paste. So I'm just going to get this out of the way because I don't need this mount or protective hoop. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We'll work it out. But the order you put the parts in is sort of optional. You kind of just want to leave the most awkward thing until the end. So CPU cooler needs to go in this space. The RAM is clustered in. The RAM is delicate. Let's get it in first, be my approach. But RAM can only go in one particular way. There's a wee notch in the middle. It's not perfectly centered. There's only one correct way you can put it in. Don't ram it in too hard, obviously. You can't really go too far wrong. In this case, we see the sticker facing away. So, should add these little tabs. You just pop down on them. That opens up your RAM slot, and then usually as you push in, closes behind it as well. So yeah, just give it a good push. Set the boards a wee bit. I'm always a bit dubious about this, but give it a good firm push and it'll go in. So at this point, if you're doing 4 sticks, put all 4 in. Doesn't matter. If you are doing a custom, or a smaller number I should say, you do need to be particular about the channels. So in this board in particular, this one is 1, this is 4. And if it's the other way around, it doesn't matter. Because basically if you've got 2 sticks, 1 in there, 1 in there. If you've 3, don't do it. And if you've 4, you're a wise person. So we'll continue with this. And again, same way, sticker across. It's usually the same across the board. If it's not, you'll quickly find out when you try and push it. And it's not. It's made a fool of me. Because I'm a fool. It's kind of very easy. But anyway, here we go. And again, oh, big clench, big clench, big clench. And we're okay. Whew. Whew. It's like gambling with no payoff. It's not very good, but continue anyway. So that's your RAM installed. You can relax, clench, not too much. There might be other people in the room. And so really it's up to you here. Well, CPU cooler and then graphics card. We still need to actually see if the 7900 XTX will fit perfectly. If it does give us too much bother, we'll swap over to the 2070, but cross that bridge. And we need to get our M.2 in here. Okay, so we're going to do that first now. Simply because it's tiny, small win. Take it off. So you'll see it here. This is where we're going to screw it down. So where it gets inserted. I'm not going to move the camera around, but you'll be able to see there's a wee notch where this tiny bit goes in the side closest to us. So if you put it in the upside down with one, it's bare. You can see that. And it won't fit. The little trick. You take her out. You want to come in at a 30-degree angle. A little bit higher, not flat, won't work flat. Not too steep. 30 degrees is what I remember, but sort of enough that if you push it, I mean, you just sort of feel it go in. And then you want to push it down. There is a wee bit of spring, a wee bit of resistance. Okay, so on this board, we don't have a CMOS battery. It's a particular watch battery. And it's a CR2032, if you're ever wondering. At this point, I'm going to go for the cooler. And so we need to do thermal paste. So nothing fancy. Arctic MX7, whatever the latest one is. Doesn't matter too much. Just get good quality thermal paste. It's like 7 or 8 quid. Doesn't matter too much. So no point risking it with thermal paste that costs 3 quid for something that, you know, you use once and hopefully don't touch again in a few years. So there's many schools of thought about this. I do a little X. Nothing too complicated, but actually before we do that, because that is semi-time sensitive, we need to do the mounting bracket. So you nearly saw a big whoopsie. It's the benefit of watching someone else do it. Okay, so if you are using this particular fan, thick stumpy end goes into the motherboard corner, thin bit through this bracket, metal bit on top. Cue the time lapse. And so for these brackets, facing this way, and sort of pointed in towards each other with the cooler itself gripping onto these wee bits sticking out. So with thermal paste, there's many schools of thought. A lot of people will say a pea-sized blob, a bit like toothpaste. A lot of people will cover it. Really, it's non-conductive. If you put too much on, clean up your mess. If you don't want to clean up a mess, do the way I do it. Little tiny X in the middle, don't go to the edge. You'll be okay. If you can get it out. Don't be afraid to do a little test dispense. Okay. And again, not too much, not too little. It's really not something you need to worry too much about. Depending on your proclivity for cleaning, if you don't mind cleaning and you have good alcohol wipes, put on as much as you want. But there we go. Not too much, not too little. Get every last bit of it. And so this is why I said get the good thermal paste, because you use so little of it. This will do 3 or 4 more for 8 quid. No point saving a couple of quid. So now the bit you don't want to screw up. We have our cooler. Heat gets dispensed to the radiator. Fan will go on top of the radiator, but this is the important part. we want to get a good, even, firm push down on the thermal paste so it spreads. Honestly, if you just sort of relax, put it on gently, you can't really get it too wrong. With this setup in particular, we need to align with these. It kind of makes it a bit easier for us. So line up with the slot and screw it in. If you have a different cooler, sometimes they often have like a push bracket. It's really a case of line it up a bit loose and then clamp it down. So, here we go. Oh, I had to pick the awkward one. I don't even know if that's close. Okay. One in the hole. Two-ish in the hole. And so I suppose the only optimal thing you could do here is try and tighten them at the same time, roughly the same amount, but just so you're sort of getting an even push on them. But honestly, it's not going to make a massive bit of difference. So a bit like when you're seating the motherboard, don't go all the way in on one. A little bit on one side, a little bit in the other. I can see some thermal paste coming out the other side. Again, I do not care. It's non-conductive. And the beauty of this setup, actually, is I can't see the mess that it's going to create. So I don't care about it. Right, that's tight. You want to tighten up the other side again. Don't go nuts, but make sure it's tight. The better the contact, the better the energy transfer, the heat transfer in this case, and that's what we want. So now, the magical part I will struggle with more than any of this is putting this on here and clamping it on. So there is a CPU fan power plug on this far side. You probably can't see it now. So I'm going to target that. So this cable nicely will just fit in here. I just got to clamp it here. So again, read your guide and I'll cue the time lapse again. Here on our motherboard is where the switches are. I had to consult the motherboard guide. I'm now trying to remember which one was the correct one to use, but with my setup here, I have a power button. Can you see? You can see. And you want to put this on. One is going to be power on, one's going to be reset, there's a few other. Consult your particular motherboard. For R1, I believe, we will chance it, it's going to be these two on the outside. And we'll find out when we turn it on or attempt to turn it on. So it's going to be GPU time. Personally, myself, I know how much of a pain in the arse it is when the GPU's in to reach around. So I'm going to plug in every sort of cable that I'm using, apart from the GPU. We're using an NVMe 2, so we don't have any SATA drives. Your SATAs would be connected here if you did have them, and you'd also need to power them, of course. In our case, we're just going to have the motherboard, CPU fan here, and we have 3 PCIe outputs for the graphics card itself. So we'll do that now. So this is what we have over here. We pre-set all this up. Your motherboard is going to be this big chunky cable. I'm pretty sure most CPU, or most PSUs, sorry, it says what the cable is, but and again it says in the side, so consult that if you're unsure. But again, it can only fit in one place, so can't go too wrong. So we have our CPU. So in our case, plugs into this corner. You'll see it. It's, again, the only slot this one's going to fit into. Motherboard power. So a bit like the RAM, you kind of need to push down on this one. It depends on the motherboard. Don't go nuts, but don't be afraid to push down. And you'll hear a click. When you hear that click, don't believe it. Try again. Push some more. Because sometimes it doesn't quite seat. We pull, and we're good. CPU fan, it's conveniently positioned, so I'm not even going to untie it. I'm just going to plop it straight in. On the back of it, you'll see a little guide. It'll keep you right. Just line the guide up with the 3 here and the little plastic guide. Again, it can only go in one way. I say that as I miss it entirely. I just, tradition, don't like to turn on the power button until the very end. Called superstition. And PSU is not plugged in anyway. You shouldn't plug it in at any point until you are happy. Don't even plug in the kettle lead at the back. Just not worth the risk. But also don't put in the power button until the very end. So, GPU now. So for you that can't see, the protective part of the graphics card is sort of clashing with this wee bracket here on the side of the motherboard. So I'm just trying to gently caress / ram it down there without damaging graphics card, and that's us. Whoop. And let's give it a good, yep. And so a bit like the RAM, bit like every other component on these things, wee bit of gentle encouragement to get it in. You'll hear a really worrying crunch, and that's how you know that it's in correctly. Like in a PC on here, you're going to need to actually mount the GPU to the bracket. It does technically stay up, but you want to give it support. Otherwise, it's going to do some damage potentially over time to the bottom. GPU sag won't happen in this test bench, but it's just good practice. So, temporary update. GPU is such a behemoth, it's going to prevent the use of this card. And unfortunately, against all superstitious desire, I will need to get this plugged in soon. It's not the end of the world. Really use Ethernet. Ethernet's better, more reliable. I just don't want to have to run Ethernet cables across my room. But we don't need this, which brings our budget closer to $1,000. Anyway, cue the time lapse. This. So in this case, we could easily access the PCIe from this side. Should have known that, so I should have. And just push down on the lever, it'll pop up, very easy to remove. Oh, this is how we curse the build. Perfect, now we're back in action. So we had a bit of a power cut there in the footage, but you didn't miss much. Put in the last screw here, did a little bit of cable management, plugged in our mouse and our keyboard. So the last bit to do here is going to be to plug in the power for your GPU. So depending on what GPU you have, it depends on what type of cables, how many, but again, they can only go in one way into one slot. So like all the other components, give it a good firm push. And for your PCIe, you'll notice you have 3 pins, then these, you want to line them up. Get them into this 4-bit, and then get them into the slot. It's a wee bit tricky, but once you sort of line it up, it'll go in easy enough. Okay, and when you're done, again, come back and double check. Because, for example, we have this connector in the middle slot. So you want to push the pin, pull out. And the issue was this came unseated. So you want to just make sure, be very careful with your GPU connections, that everything is in exactly as it should be. So any of the videos you've seen online, people having issues with the GPU, it's always the connector. And so we look, everything's flat, everything's flush, everything's seated, it's not coming out. We're happy. And so we're pretty much done. Everything's wired up. We need to connect the kettle lead into the power supply, turn on the switch, hope we don't see the magic smoke. And that should be us. So we're going to install Linux Mint. You should have an ISO, I'll leave a guide down in the description just to go download it, but download, use something like Rufus, Balena Etcher, flash the Linux Mint ISO or Ubuntu onto USB, plug it in, and I'll meet you at the next screen. There we go. HDMI, no signal. So that's not a good sign. Give it a moment. Because HDMI, no signal has disappeared. But that whirring does seem like something's a bit off. So to turn it off, we're going to hold the power button, and like on most, that should be it. So, first troubleshooting that we need to do could be multiple things, RAM not seated correctly, number of things. We saw the fan spin up on the GPU, meaning the PCIe slot's working, it's registered. Fans picked up here. Now, that really just means they're getting power. Without more information, it's hard to say, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to begin some diagnostic work, and then again, we'll see you in the next one. So we're back. We had a bit of an issue before where we set up the power cables going into the GPU wrong. What we did was we used the 12 volt high power splitter into 2 PCIe, and then for our third one we used the actual PCIe slot. That wasn't happy with that. So we had to take it apart, reset the CMOS by taking the wee battery out, leaving it for 15 seconds, shorten the wee 2 prongs, put it back together, wired it up, just using the 3 PCIe, and should all be grand. So, moment of truth, we're going to turn it on. And it is all whirring. And hopefully this time, it will actually register the memory and then post. So if you can hear that whirring, that is actually the CPU fan. I have my head right up close. Definitely not the GPU. GPU is silky smooth. And there she goes. That should be it. So if we watch the screen, and that's us posting. So, assuming did you actually do the cables correctly, this should be really simple. Really plug and play and away you go. Just should note very quickly, USB with Linux Mint. You want to get the ISO for that and then use something like Rufus, Balena Etcher, and just get that set up. A lot of guides, I'll put some in the description. And here we go, so nothing too fancy. We're just going to walk through this. If you've never seen it before, click through the screens. If there is anything critical, I will stop and go through it. So what you will need here is a keyboard. A mouse would be useful later. You don't technically need it, but I would recommend. So we're just going to go for the standard install. So with Linux Mint, this release is fairly stable. It's based on Ubuntu. It's been out for a while. No issues. I like it. But any Ubuntu-based Linux will work fine. In about 6 months, December I think it might be, the next release comes out based on the new Ubuntu. Maybe stick with the old Linux Mint for a while. But again, up to yourselves. So this will take a wee while to but to actually boot into this. It's coming off the USB. So we'll probably speed up the video for a bit here. Once we're on the desktop, we'll get right back to you. So here we are. What you can do here is effectively just try Linux Mint. So if you are new to Linux or Mint, have a click about. This is the Cinnamon release. There's more lightweight versions, but I just like this. It's not too heavy in the background, and it's a fairly good desktop. So why not have a desktop as well as an AI rig? The whole point is to keep it cheap. You don't need two. It's an all-in-one solution. When you're not using it for inference or training, or even if you are and it's not too heavy, you can still use this as a pretty powerful desktop. Now we're just going to go straight for the install. I know I want it, but as I said, it's up to you. Click around for a bit. When you're ready, you want to come up here and just double click in. And so this will do some basic settings, nothing too fancy. Well, you can go as deep as you want, really. We're just going to follow really the recommended path. There is some extra steps we'll need to actually get the AI rig part up and running. We want to update our GPU drivers. We want to install things like Llama CPP. I like Unsloth. We're going to use Unsloth for training if you've NVIDIA. AMD support should be coming soon for Unsloth, and that'll allow you to actually train models or post-train and allow you to do some sort of fine-tuning on them as well. So we'll be covering a lot more videos on that over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. For now, we've got an AMD installed, so we'll be training on that. But we have NVIDIA as a backup. So here we go. Again, you know which one applies to you. And so you just want to pick that. Nothing too too scary here. Don't judge me too much. So again, I like to put this in. I'm going to use this, well, not really, it's a test bench, but in theory, if I was using this as a PC, why would I not want this? We have enough storage. In theory, this isn't going to be too much of an issue. Okay, so in this instance, we have no operating system on our storage. We have a singular SSD, no secondary SATA port, nothing like that. So it's fairly simple. You just want to go through. I'll click in to show you. Okay, this is to do with encryption. I do not claim to be an expert. Don't care. We're local. We're going to be staying local. Lock your door. And so that's pretty much it. Yep, that's grand. That's just telling you what the partitions are going to be. I always thought there was a theme change. Yes, sorry. The theme change, I believe, might actually happen once you boot. So set your location, your time zone. Good old UTC. And set your name here. We're just going to use something generic. So my name is Daniel. That is going to be it, if I could spell. And this will be AI test bench, but honestly this doesn't matter. It really is just for notification. Tell I'm primarily a Python dev. Let's not do that. I'll stick with that. And password, I will not say that, of course. This is not a good password, but okay, I will take the win. So again, this is really up to you. Again, we're local. Lock your door. And so after this, I'm pretty sure it's just let it go. I don't think there's anything else, so I'll hang around for a bit myself, just to keep an eye on it. But you can pretty much walk away, come back 10, 20 minutes, usually not too long. I don't honestly know how long it takes. Never really had an issue with Linux Mint, unlike Ubuntu. So this should be it. So yeah, we'll skip forward in the video. I'll come back and join you once we're completely finished, and hopefully you'll have the same final screen that we do. So we're back. And so it's finished installing. You can either continue clicking around, or ideally we're going to restart now. You'll see here, please remove the installation medium, then press enter. That is the USB. It's quite simply, pull it out. Quite simple, hit enter. And so if all has gone according to plan, we are running successfully. Now, it could be a few issues you run into, mainly BIOS related. If you've used the same components as us, you shouldn't. But if you do, I'd recommend look at BIOS issues. So simply Google motherboard, BIOS issue, Linux, ChatGPT will be your best friend here. So when you come into Linux Mint, you're always going to get joined by this. It's kind of nice. It'll walk you through everything. If you want to get rid of it eventually, you can get rid of it. Just tick this wee box. So desktop colors, the most important part. We need to set up our theme. We go for green. We go for dark. And this gives us a little green there. Now, it's actually going to be sort of closer. This blue is going to be closer to the operating system we eventually go for, but go for this. And so I'm not going to click through too much of this. System snapshots, it's up to you really. And enter your password here. Really, it's just to set up some backups. Now, as this is a test bench, I'm not going to do this, but it's up to you really. It's generally recommended, depends what you're doing, of course. We've only got 512. We're going to be sort of clearing this and reinstalling quite a bit, so we're not going to. But I would recommend it if you plan on building something a bit more permanent. Again, driver manager, critical. In general, when you get to here, click through everything, update everything. If you've got internet, great. In our case, if you're following with our components, our Wi-Fi card did not fit because of the GPU, predictable, but We do have a bigger motherboard we can use with that. But you'll need an Ethernet, of course, then to do this. You only need it once, technically. With the build we are going to go for over the next few videos, you can simply connect your Ethernet, download all the models you need, download all the packages, get all your updates, unplug, and away you're going. All of the models we'll be running will be deployed on your local network. So you could even use another device to actually sort of daisy chain it through to somewhere else if you need to. But really just click through, have a little play around. If you haven't used Linux before, I would recommend watch a few videos on Linux Mint, just see how it works. I kind of like it, but nothing too out of the ordinary. So really, that is us. We have finished the build, as you can see. We're all running successfully. No major issues. Any issues were primarily on my end, not fully understanding what we're doing. And so very quickly, I'll just recap what we're actually going to be doing with this project. So the goal is to try and build a capable AI rig for around about £1,000. Really that revolves around the GPU, getting a sufficient GPU. The rest of the components is what we're trying to cheap out on and see what's the bare minimum we can work with. The project will change and adapt as we go on. I've already come up with a few things that got a wee script to automate most of the installation, which we'll cover in the next video. While doing that, I started doing some CPU tests, had some promising results, so we will be branching out as time goes on. The main sort of focus I had when I started is how low can we get the power requirements while maintaining sufficient output. Again, done some preliminary tests with the small Gemma models, the 27B, 26B Quen Gemma, I can't remember which way around they are. And it was promising. The right tools, right skills, right data, and a little bit of fine tuning, we were getting some pretty promising results. So that'll be the goal over the next 1 to 100 videos. I'm not 100% sure. With the goal being how cheap can we get it while maintaining a sufficient output. Long term, I suppose, 1 token a second is better than 0, and we'll work our way up from there. So, any questions? Please do get in touch. We will be doing a lot more build guides over time. It's the first video I've done, so I have a lot to learn myself. But please do reach out if you have any questions, and I will catch you in the next one. So I'm less worried about that. I can go in the end. 2 giant antennae. Oversized. Overcompensating. As long as they work. No comment. Okay,